It's going. It's just pulling through. Great. All right, brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We've got an exciting session for you today. I see there's some questions already. You can just use the chat, and we will go through it as it goes through. So please just put your questions on the chat. So we have Josh Choi joining us today. So just a quick introduction for Josh, and thanks for joining us. Josh is a prominent figure in Korea's startup ecosystem. He's known for his impactful work in both the private and public sectors. As the business strategy director of Korea Startup Forum, which is Korea's largest startup membership organization with over 2,100 members, Josh has been instrumental in fostering a thriving community that connects startups with investors, mentors, and industry stakeholders. Josh's leadership is extended to organizing Come Up Korea, which is a premier global startup festival. It's actually the program that we will be taking the top 20 tech ventures from Africa Tech Startup Forum to in December this year. So this is a culmination of the entire Africa Tech Startup Forum. So we're excited about that, and Josh runs that event. Josh has a rich background that includes roles such as Chief Communications Officer at Icon Loop and leadership positions at International Telecommunication Union, ITU. Josh brings a wealth of experience to his initiatives. He's also spearheads global cooperation through the UN's AI for Good Innovation Factory, supporting AI-driven startups worldwide and mentoring over 120 startups from over 30 countries. He's passionate about entrepreneurship. Josh is dedicated to promoting Korean startups, but also African startups globally, and positioning Korea as a hub for innovation and growth. And we had the pleasure of hosting Josh in South Africa a few weeks ago, where he met a lot of the different incubators and accelerators. He'll be back out again in October, just to help us with preparation for the group going out to Africa, to Come Up Korea from Africa Tech Startup Forum. So, Josh, thanks for joining us again. And always great to have you, and really looking forward to today's insightful presentation. I've had a look through your slides, and they're super exciting, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions that's come through to you at the end. So if everybody, please do put your questions on the chat, but we'll be opening up the ability for you to put your cameras on and your mics on at the end of this session. So you can actually put your hand up, and we'll take questions with your hand up. And you actually can speak directly to Josh. We would love to see your faces, so please put your cameras on when you do ask those questions. We want to see who you are and where you're from. Yeah, we'll take those all at the end. But Josh, if I could ask you to share your slide, and I'll hand over to you to take it from there.
Thank you very much, Rax, for a kind introduction. Okay, so let me first share my slide here. Go well.
That's all good, looking good. You can take it
away.
away.
Okay, right, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so it's super nice to meet you guys all here. So I'm actually connecting from Paris, where I stay for a week for another mission here. And then, well, I'm so honored, so happy to be a part of this interesting, so very important initiative, and driven by the Africa Development Bank and also Korea Africa Foundation. And then, so, well, actually, I was instructed to deliver this session for 2 hours, which is sometimes quite challenging to. It's quite challenging to do a presentation for 2 hours. So instead of doing really one-way presentation, I would rather have a more interactive, discussion with you guys, because basically the title today for today's session, sustaining growth innovation. Well, yeah, actually this word itself is very hard to achieve as a startup. And also I can share some of my personal experience and also some of the experience that I got indirectly from the founders, entrepreneurs that I am very close with. But also probably my knowledge and experience might be limited because, for example, probably you guys here are more expertise in African context and business environment in Africa. So perhaps I can also learn from your side. Also, you can get some new insights from my side. So basically, I would like to build some kind of really collective, knowledge and sharing and information here today, so that we can improve together, we can grow together. All right. So sustaining growth innovation. So this is today's title. So I'm going to share some of the points that I would like to raise, but of course there are hundreds of tips and the know-hows and also the advices on how to sustain growth innovation. So let's share together. Okay, so yeah, all right. So just a short introduction. Basically, Rex gave the really intensive introduction about myself. So I started my job as a marketing manager at one of the largest in the internet service company in Korea, which is called Kakao. There are two major internet companies in Korea, is Naver and Kakao. They're basically like Korea's Google. So they provide email, they provide like news media service, and provide like the media and the community and all the the shoppings and everything, just like Google. And then I moved to Switzerland in Geneva to join the International Telecommunication Union. So I did a lot of interesting projects, and I then came back to Korea to become a startup founder myself. But it was not very successful. So basically, I can share a lot of experience of my failure actually. And then I'm working as the executive director of Comma, which is the really premier startup event, as Rex introduced, and also in parallel, also I am serving as a head of growth, global growth of Korea Startup Forum, which is the biggest startup founder community. Okay, so let's move on to the today's topic here. So a lot of startups actually fail. Nearly 90% of startups fail within 5 years, according to the statistics performed by major research institutes like CB Insights and PitchBook and whatever. And then on average, 90% of startups fail. So it means that the only 10% of startups that very extraordinarily survive. So what I wanted to say here is that the fact that 90% of startups fail it means that majority of the startups are at the least risk of being failure, but it doesn't mean that they do wrong, because if 10% of startups failed, maybe these 10% startups are doing something wrong. But I mean, the fact that 90% of startups, the failure is that it's really general, right? So basically, I mean, there is always a risk of being, failure. But I mean, that's the actual nature of startups. So I don't want to use the failure as a really negative term in the startups, and because everybody can fail, right? But I mean, one-time failure doesn't mean that you will fail again and again and again. So there are a lot of lessons from the failure that we do. So basically, here today's session, I'd like to share some of my stories and experiences about lessons from failure, or the best way to avoid same mistake when you actually move on your startup entrepreneurship journey. So if you look at these really startups who are pretty much popular and famous in the past, and they used to be a very promising startup, but always there's a possibility for even this kind of a big startup to fail. So Food Rocket is a UK-based ultra-fast grocery delivery startup, which is 2 years old. Basically, every time you order like grocery store, and then within just 10 or 20 minutes, actually, the groceries is delivered to your house. So their total funding so far is $27 million. It's not small, but I mean, after 2 years, they just shut down for several reasons. And 54 Gene is a Nigerian genomics startup. And if you look at their profile, they are really, really the visionary startup. So if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, only 3% of African genome information is delivered in the global pharmaceutical industry. So they really wanted to, narrow this gap and then solve this in the divide. And then they also raised 46.3 million US dollars. But after 4 years, basically this kind of biotechnology startups are really capital intensive in the start business. And also they failed to raise more fund and then they had to shut down. And the UK banking loan startup, which is 5 years old, the Koyo, even their total funding is amazing, nearly 70 million US dollars. They also had to shut down last year. An Israeli medical robot startup called Exact Robotics, they even developed, FDA approved robotics for autonomous, robotic surgery, which is really promising. But I mean, also after 10 years of operation, they finally had to shut down for several reasons. But I don't think that their failure means that robotic surgery is really not a really promising business. Rather, sometimes we see some technologies were born too early, So maybe in the future and then within the next few years, if the whole this technology is more valuable, the cost for this robotic surgery is going down, maybe the technology can be reborn again. So who knows? So, but anyway, for now, for several other reasons, they failed. And Fuzzy, which is at the US-based healthcare startup, which is 7 years old, and then their total funding is even nearly 75 million US dollars, and also they had to shut down. So there are a lot of reasons for startups to fail and to fail to sustain the growth, innovation, and not just because of their own internal problem, but also some kind of external problem, also external challenges is coming all together, and all these reasons are really interconnected. So this is these are the common, most common reasons for startup failure, which were also surveyed by a CB Insight for thousands of startups who actually have the experience of failure. So the main reason, the biggest reason is basically misaligned product market fit. So, it's quite surprising because basically the product market fit is the really essential part of, doing your business. And then everybody understand the importance of this, product market fit thing. But I mean, also, this is the biggest reason for the failure. It means that although everybody understands the importance of the product market fit, also it is very, very hard to make your product to truly fit the needs of market. So that's the thing. And then because of that, and all other reasons are really interconnected, right? So if your product proved to be really misfit with the market, of course, the investor wouldn't be more interested in your startup, and then they just stop funding, and then probably you will be challenged with insufficient funding, and then probably you fail it. And then was maybe some wrong people on the team have devise some wrong, strategy, especially PMF strategy, and then so your service probably had to be shut down. And then also because of severe competition, perhaps you will also have the challenge of shutting down your business. And the issues with pricing also interconnected with the product market fit. Also, bad product quality also linked to the product market fit as well. And so there are a lot of these kind of reasons. So also legal problem is in some cases, especially in some countries whose government have a very strict regulatory framework, and the legal problem is one of the big issues as well. And also your customer needs are ignored is exactly related to product market fit there. So a lot of reasons here are strongly connected with the product market fit problem. And also it is linked to the business funding, and then you sometimes realize the wrong people there and the severe competition, something like that. So this is the really major reason that probably you feel it makes sense. And if you look at the failure rate by industry, all right, as I mentioned, overall failure rate is 63%, that's here, and then 25% of startups actually close during their first year. So combining all this, only 10% of startups actually survive in the long run, basically after 5 years or something. And then, but if you look at the industry here, the 95% of startup in the field of blockchain and cryptocurrency, and they failed because well, actually blockchain, especially cryptocurrency startup, is relatively easy to set up. So creating your own cryptocurrency based on any blockchain platform, and then you try to list your coin in the list your token in a coin market exchange, and then you suddenly realize that actually doesn't work. So there are a lot of startups actually who think that it's very easy to set up your cryptocurrency in a blockchain startup, but I mean it's really really hard to survive. So that's why I think that the blockchain cryptocurrency have to have really high failure rate. And also fintech startups, so pretty much at the risk of being failure because of all the lot of regulations and also different financial schemes in different regions, different countries. 75%. Then e-commerce and also, I mean, if you have a really good items, you want to sell a merchandise your items through the e-commerce service, basically half and half. But I mean, if you really wanted to build a really e-commerce platform itself, like Amazon, Target and Coupang in Korea, like any other big thing in the Pan-African e-commerce business, that's a different story because you have to take care of the logistics and the warehouse, and it's really really capital intensive one. So but including all these things, and also including all the small medium-sized businesses using e-commerce, also including all these, half of the startups that have failed, and mostly similar to construction or manufacturing as well. Right. That's interesting. Okay, so how founders experience influence of startup success. All right. So only 18% of the first-time founder succeeds. But I mean, if you fail at least one more, even twice, even three times, well, actually you can decrease the failure rate, of course. So the more failure you will have, the more probably your success will be, right? So there are a lot of interesting stories of the successful founders who actually have got a multiple number of failures and finally they did it. So basically, I think the failure, as I mentioned, is a really essential part of the startup. So that's why 9% of startups fail, right? So basically, the failure is a really essential way. So once you fail, and then it does not end up the game. So we really have to think about how to move on. And I think this failure is also one of the process of sustaining growth innovation. So in your business itself can be a failure, but your journey to the whole entrepreneurship to keep your growth innovation, I think the failure is also one of the process. So 30% of the startups who actually have the experience of at least one or multiple times of failure, they have a much more higher success rate here. So these are several advices, some quotes from successful startup founders as anonymously. So as you can see here, so a lot of startups have a very much common advice. For example, you have to make sure that at least one member of the founding team has the ability to think about how things are practically implemented, executed. So basically, it's very important to find a really good co-founding members, and that's really one of the key to sustain your innovation and growth. And also you take a bit of risk because whoever you hire, you will not know for sure that it's going to work out, right? And being a founder means that the challenges change all the time. So basically, even if you solve the biggest challenge that you think, but probably even the bigger challenge is coming. So you always meet the challenge. This is the fact that you have to understand it, right? And then also adding too many people to the team too quickly can create a lot of noise and inefficiency in the organization. So, okay, so you started with a very small team, you got a really huge amount of investment, and then you really wanted to grow fast, and you suddenly hire a lot of people, and sometimes it doesn't work out because, I mean, you really have to be careful of, selecting the people because all these people are joining later than the co-founding member. They have a totally different mindset, and then they have a totally different view to see your business, right? So co-founder mindset in the later stage in a joining team, and it's very, very important to align this different mindset between the founding teams and the later employed and people. And also having a co-founder provides a broader range of knowledge and offers, especially emotional support. It's because, sometimes you feel so lonely when you are your own sole founder. And so I think that having a really good co-founder is a really good one, for example, because I'm going to touch upon this thing later, but I mean, briefly saying, who knows what's going to happen to you tomorrow, right? So it's in case of any urgency or anything, and it's definitely important to have someone else who can actually perfectly replace you. And also joining an accelerator and early stage investors is definitely helpful because these early stage accelerator don't they do not only invest in the startup, but they are really business partner, because for accelerators point of view, actually growing early stage startup is the key for them to also make money, to be honest, right? So it's very important for accelerator to really help startups, help their portfolio startup grow. So that's why they have a more strong relationship with the startups compared to later stage VCs. And also don't focus on making an exit. I mean, of course, the exit is one of the important dreams for all kinds of entrepreneurs in the world, but I'm focused on making products that truly deliver value to users. That's the key, because once you succeed in making your product deliver value to users, and all other plans, and including exits, will follow up. And also go into entrepreneurship only if you are passionate about a problem or subject, because it will take 4 or 5 or 10 years for you to succeed or even fail. I think, yeah, and then boosting entrepreneurship is very, very important. But I mean, okay, I just want to be a startup founder. It sounds cool, right? So, and that doesn't work, right? So basically, unless you are so obsessed with a problem that you really, really want to solve, and that's the time for someone else to start their own business, right? So these are some of the advice that we can get from some successful startup founders. All right. So now let's move on some of the tips that I would like to share based on my experience in those interviews with the successful founders to sustain growth innovation. So firstly, you have to design your business model from the very beginning. It sounds very natural, but there are a lot of startups who actually didn't do that. So especially in the times when a lot of platform businesses are coming to the world, and a lot of platform startups, especially, they fail to find a way to make money, even if they've got a lot of traction among their users, but actually there is no way for them to make money from, benefiting those interactions and those the number of clients. So basically, the platform service is actually providing, kind of place where demand side and supply side they meet, and then you create a value. And then, but sometimes I saw a lot of startups who come up with a great idea as a platform service and then provide a place, and then they actually match needs and requirements from demand and supply, but actually they don't think about how to make a real money of it. And then one of the startups actually we selected last year, they developed a very interesting, travel spot recommendation service, which can be very useful for any international traveler. And then they were very successful in gathering people, and then a lot of people actually used that app. But I mean, they actually didn't think about the profit model when they start with their business. And then finally, their runway is just running out, and then they have to shut down their service. Of course, they rebound again, luckily, because they were able to get the additional funding. But I mean, the founder that I met of this startup, and he now will confess to me that he should have thought about this business model. So I'm just using the image of Spotify here. Is that I don't know actually how many of you watch the Netflix series and the playlist. I strongly recommend all of you to watch this video, because this is a story about Spotify founders. So it really focuses on the really early stage stories on how Spotify was born, and then what kind of dynamics and kind of mental conflict between co-founding teams, and what are the challenges and how they actually overcome the challenges, etc. So I think that the playlist is just really something that all entrepreneurs should watch, and it's a really inspiring video, which is really, really good. So here there is a story about, the Spotify's business model. When basically the Spotify, they really wanted to fight against both parties. So one party is actually that time, uh, the music pirate, uh, which is basically P2P, the music sharing in a site, which is obviously illegal because they ignore any intellectual property right. They didn't care about license. So this is completely illegal. So actually, Daniel Ek, who is the founder of Spotify, wanted to build a new music service, which definitely, respect the intellectual property of the artist, but at the same time, he wanted to provide this music for free. So he has to fight against with both party. One is the actually illegal music sharing platform and the major big labels like Sony Music, Warner Brothers, and etc. It was not easy, but anyway. So the early stage co-founder who is the CEO who still wanted to keep the free music service, but I mean after a few months of the establishment of the Spotify, they realized that all the funds is run out and they are very, very close to shutting down their business. And the one co-founding member who's actually the young lawyer who come up with an idea of a playlist. So basically, well, Spotify can stay for free, but I mean, she wants to create some kind of premium service where, a lot of the premium users can use additional services. For example, they can collect their preferred songs to make a playlist and a lot of other additional services. But I mean, some co-founding members really didn't want to make it because they really wanted to focus on the free music service. But if they follow on that path, perhaps they could make it. So at the very early stage, and then they finally were able to get the business model, and then it worked out. Before that, it was really, really challenging for them, right? So, I think this designing your business model, actually profit-making model from the very beginning is very important because for that time, probably, making profit is not prioritized compared to, making customers gathering to your platform. But I mean, as a founder, you really have to think about how to make the money from the very beginning. So if you look at this whole business model of Spotify based on business canvas here, so in the center, value proposition is free music streaming and also but premium music streaming. These are two value propositions that Spotify wanted to provide. And free music streaming was the only one at the very beginning, but actually they added the premium music streaming later on. And so free music streaming actually is related to to customer segment as a music lovers. And of course, there are some music lovers who would like to use the premium services. So it comes to revenue structure on the bottom right. So premium subscription is the way that actually the Spotify can make money. And also, of course, there are added revenues that Spotify can make from the free service, right? So this actually virtual circle is working well, and this is how actually Spotify was able to grow so in that way and finally listed in the stock market there, right? So this is the actual lean canvas of Uber. So they have a very concrete, unique value proposition in the center. And if you look at the revenue streams, also they have a very much concrete and detailed revenue streams. For example, here in a trip sharing fee at 0.2 US in euros per shared trip, etc. So I mean, all these things is something that you really have to think of even from the very beginning. So I think rather than business canvas, the lean canvas is really, really useful for any startups, which is a little bit different from the traditional business canvas. So you identify a problem and you identify solution and the value proposition, the revenue streams and cost structure. And once this is done, and then based on this, you can think about how to actually create and design your business model. All right. So secondly, well, the biggest reason of failure that I mentioned in the previous slide was misaligned product market fit. So obviously the aligning product market fit definitely with the key elements to avoid your failure, but also the key elements to keep your growth innovation. So there are two key questions that we have to think ourselves. So are you sure that there is market need and demand for what your startup is offering? And does your product target the right market? So these are two main questions you have to ask. I just wanted to use an example here for PlayStation example. Of course, PlayStation is not a startup, but I mean, it gives a lot of implication for us. So when the Sony Entertainment launched the PlayStation, basically, yeah, the PlayStation is really successful. Game consoles, everybody, a lot of people actually loves it, right? And they really targeted to teenagers who really like the gaming, right? So most all their and the product, also their game content, their marketing strategy, all these things really focus on some kind of a teenager targeted marketing. But it didn't work out because basically this kind of console is quite expensive for teenagers. So actual person who purchased this PlayStation machine is their parents. But actually in the world, probably there are very, very few parents who would like to see their children to play the game all day long in the living room, right? So it's completely failed. So they actually changed the strategy. So they changed the focus on young adults who's got a job or living alone. So basically, in the PlayStation, they focused on the needs from those people. So actually, they positioned PlayStation as a really luxurious and then very interesting like hobby for young adults who have a professional job, and then they totally changed the whole thing, right? So I mean, even if your product is really great, but I mean, you really have to carefully think about whether your product truly fit the needs of market. There are a lot of cases actually who failed it. All right. And also focus on the problem, not your solution. A lot of founders I met, especially who has a technical background, that they're really kind of proud of their technical solution. Our solution is fastest. Our solution has the really the highest quality, compared to all other solutions. But actually, your clients, your customer doesn't care. So your customers only cares about their problem. So as long as your solution can solve the problem, they don't care about the quality. They don't care about the standard of your solution. They really truly care about problem. This is the actual nature of the normal customers. So, but it makes a big difference when you shift your focus from your solution to problem. So this guy is also the actor of the playlist, the Netflix drama of Spotify. So he's the CEO. So he's a kind of really, he's a really typical nerd type, a genius, code person. And then he really he did his best to make, the Spotify as fast as possible without no buffering. And then, but he come up with a very, very good, solution within just 1 second, even the 0.5 second buffering. But the founder Daniel was not satisfied. Then it should feel like with real time streaming, and then but within that time the recent protocols and everything, and it was nearly impossible. But I mean, he was pretty much obsessed with the perfection, but finally he changed his mind. So it's a kind of more technological terms, but anyway, um, they instead of actually making truly perfect solution to make streaming, they decided to allow certain data loss when they make traffic so that they can actually make a more real time transfer, because that amount of very small amount of data loss is not something that people can recognize as a normal, listener. So actually they allowed it, and then they finally come up with that kind of solution, which is not perfect from technological perspective, but it's perfect because it definitely meets the needs of customers who always want to real time fast, transferring, the streaming of the music. So focus on the problem, not your solution. That's one of the also very important key elements to sustain growth innovation. Okay, and then fourth, I also strongly recommend a lot of entrepreneurs to look at the size of the problem that you want to solve, right? Because the size of problem is the size of market. but the size of problem that you want to solve is small. Basically, your business is not scalable, and perhaps there is some kind of limitation. Of course, I mean, solving the small size of problem is sometimes definitely important for certain specific area. Yes, you can do that. But if you want to keep growth, innovation in a really scalable way, and look at the size of the problem. And this guy is the most popular, well-known startup entrepreneur in South Korea who developed Toast, which is the now $8 billion valued startup, which is the biggest unicorn in South Korea. So Toast means actually, toast your money. So he actually developed so many different type of services before he come up with this Toast idea. But all these, problems that he wanted to solve is kind of a specific problem he was very much interested in, but it's not scalable. But basically that time when he actually come up with this idea, even mobile banking, mobile stock, trading was not very much available, and very, very inconvenient for just normal bank users to use traditional banking system. And he just developed a very idea to make financial transactions so easily with the mobile phone, and then that market was huge, and he just realized that. Right. So basically, if you are solving the problem, which is a really big size, I mean, so there is a more higher possibility for you to grow in a really scalable way. But I mean, you have to be careful, because sometimes I see a lot of founders come up with a pitch deck with a very nice and a very vague idea of their market size. So for example, okay, in my country, like whole the AI is a big trend, like, also, these days, a lot of people, we are actually facing some kind of aging, society. So actually silver business is big. So I'm going to do some kind of business in this opportunity. Of course, there must be an opportunity in silver business and some AI, but it's not a market, right? It's just like, huge trend, right? So within this huge trend, what are your market? What are the problems that you want to solve? And how large is that, problem? How large is that, your potential market? So you really have to narrow down, and then from the big trends, and then you have to identify that problem, and then you have to think about the size of the problem, which is exactly equally the same as the size of market. So size of the problem is the size of the market. Okay, so you have to remember that. All right. Then keep the flexibility and don't be scared of people, right? So Ludicop, what is Ludicop? So probably you probably hardly hear about this company, right? So Ludicop was the company for multiplayer, online game. So it was founded by Stuart Butterfield, and then he created some kind of online multiple game, but it wasn't successful. But I mean, he's got a really great team of developing graphic, based application. Because the game he was developing was a really graphically very superior game, and then but the game was not very successful. So they very actually pivoted their service to Flickr by leveraging the technical skills of their team. And they pivoted at the Flickr, and it was acquired by Yahoo. So he achieved a really successful exit. But I mean, he's still very game obsessed guy, and then he really wants to solve the kind of problem in the game industry. But I mean, sometimes you have to have a very flexibility. So a lot of founders that I also met, I mean, they, of course, their business item is sometimes feel like their children, right? So they really want to lose their child, right? But you really have to understand what time is the time for you to think about shutting down your current service and quickly pivot to next one that you can actually leverage all your experience and resources and people to go there. So he was not really scared of this kind of pivots. He just quickly just gave up his idea and quickly moved on. And he finally founded Flickr, and he did make it. So you have to think about truly, truly flexible, ideas, and then also you shouldn't be scared of any pivot. Well, pivoting yourself is sometimes really frustrating to founders. I know that. I definitely understand that. And then because pivoting itself is sometimes give the feeling to the founders that all the things they trusted and they believed is some kind of just daydream, right? So it's really really hard, situation that you can even with some kind of really mentally feeling. So, but I mean, don't be scared of that kind of thing, and then you have to really quickly think about pivoting yourself is there. All right, and then it's also related to this 6 point, very fast and restart. So glitch. So probably you also had never heard about this company, maybe some of you. So Glitch is the startup that, this guy, Stuart Butterfield, who actually pivoted to Flickr, and he again wanted to build up the game service. So after he exited Flickr, and then he also created on a new game software startup, and he developed the Glitch, but it was successful again. So, and then he just wanted to make the best use of whole his team skills, and he actually created his own, internal, the communication tool within the company, and he scaled up. He finally come up with the Slack, and then, and Slack was also listed in the he's listed in the stock market, and finally succeeded his exit as an IPO. So again, it's very important for startups to think about when they stop their idea and then when they actually restart. This is one of the very toughest, decision-making process for founders. But I mean, if you can fail fast and restart, actually it gives you a higher possibility for having a really more successful startup and later next stage, right? So basically, yeah, fail fast and then restart is also one of the key elements that for all of us to keep growth innovation. Right. And don't lose the agility, and because it is key to win the competition. So the beauty of the beauty of running startup, one of the beauty of the running startup is to be agile to any different changes, any quick changes and challenges in your business environment, right? But if your organization is big, like it's a big organization, it's very very hard to be agile and quickly move, right? So, but regardless of your size, I think it's very, very important to keep the agility to move on so fast. Otherwise, sometimes you will, face the severe competition from another startup and that who can very quickly implement the idea. So you used to be like the kind of really agile founders when your startup is small, but in the stage of the kind of scale up stage, and suddenly not suddenly, but you gradually you lose that agility, and then you are faced with the challenges from the young, the later established startup founders. So I think it's very important to keep the agility. So War Brothers is the biggest food delivery service in Korea. And then they are now actually big companies. They are actually acquired by Delivery Hero. They're based in the Europe and the European, really big, food delivery company. So before that, when they actually started their business, there was a challenge because when they just started the business and after a few months, actually they were able to get attention from the customers and clients, and then their app is going to be successful. But they heard the news that the big players like Delivery Hero is entering the Korean market. But basically they have the whole infrastructure. So Delivery Heroes, service include the whole financial transaction service with credit card, everything which these War Brothers didn't have. So the founder of War Brothers asked his CTO, how long does it take to add the credit card or the financial transaction service in the app? Well, now actually food service app actually adding the adding the payment solution is actually really easy. It's really straightforward. But in that time, when they actually developed this application, basically even the kind of payments method was not very available in any application. So their basic function is to allow any users to order a food, and then that order, just transmitted to the restaurant, and they got it, and they send their deliverer, and then they pay their own side, right? So that was the actually mechanism they built, and then they really had to quickly develop the payment solution embedded in application, which finally proved to take 6 months. So 6 months is a really long time for startups. So within 6 months, if there's a big competitor come to the Korean market, and they lose the match. So what they did is actually they created a payment button in the application, but actually it didn't work. So, but if the customer click it, it apparently it looks like they pay. So if they click the payment method, and then they put their all the card numbers, and then they actually put the amount, and it's manually collected in their office, and they actually manually did that, and then they called the restaurant, and then also they pay for it. So basically they did it manually, but after apparently the customers feel like there's actual subs there. So I mean, this is kind of beauty of being agile. So even if you cannot solve the problem in a really right way, and then this kind of agility approach really can help them survive. Thanks to that, within 6 months, they were finally able to develop the payment service, and then they were able to embed it. But during these 6 months, they didn't lose the game, right? So I mean, don't lose the agility is very important as well. And better the jockey and not the horse. So this is about people, right? So this guy, Stuart Battlefield, who is the founder of Slack, and in the middle, and Seung Lee, who is the founder of Toast, as I mentioned, and lastly, he's the Kevin Systrom, who is the founder of Instagram. Okay, they're really successful entrepreneurs, but I wanted to talk about the hidden story about these people. So I just mentioned about story about Slack. So this the Stuart Battlefield, and he firstly tried to create the online game. He failed, right? So he actually he pivoted to the Flickr, and then he sold this company to Yahoo. Then he created another game company, and he failed. He went to Slack. But there is a hidden story about that. So especially, I think this section is more related to ESOs here. So this guy, actually, when he realized that his second game company Glitch didn't work out, he wanted to return all the money he got from the investor to investors. But that time, Axel Ventures, who is the main investor to this company, and then the venture capitalist from the Axel Ventures, he didn't want to receive the money. I mean, he asked this guy to keep moving on. Okay, don't worry about the money. Okay, so I trust in you. I trust in your skill. I trusted in your capability. So any idea, just come up with an idea. So until you just come up with an idea, I can be patient. So basically, Axel Ventures still invest in this guy, not the company itself. So that's why, I put here the word bet on the jockey, not the horse. So basically, Axel Ventures really they bet on the jockey, that guy, and also Toast again is the singly. He actually raised the fund from Altos Ventures. It's one of the biggest VCs in Korea, and then Altos Ventures actually invested in his second item. But I mean, the guy in the middle, he actually failed 6 times before he come up with the final product, which is Toast. So during this 6-time failure, and these Altos Ventures were patient, that they still keep their trust in the founder. So third item failed, fourth item failed, the fifth item failed, sixth item failed, but seventh item finally succeeded. So what are the return for this venture capital who is patient is enormous, right? So if Axel Ventures had just withdrawn their money from this guy, perhaps they could get the benefit from investing in Slack, which gave like a few thousand times return to these investors. Also, Instagram, founder Systrom, his first idea is kind of online checking, place checking system. But I mean, the investors still trusted in this guy's capability. They were waiting for him to come up with a greater idea, right? So I mean, this principle can be applied to decision making from accelerator VCs and ESOs, but also for the entrepreneurs. I mean, when you actually look for people, actually try to find the person rather than the company side, right? So actually, people are the key. So related to them, I think A team with the B idea is more likely to succeed than B level team with the A idea. Because even if there is a really A level idea, the B level team sometimes they really lack of their capability of actually implementing their idea. But an A-level team, even with the B ideas, and they actually play with this idea and pivoting them and improve them and find that they come up with things. So again here, rather than idea, rather than the company itself, and I mean the people are the really key elements that we really have to think about when you wanted to really keep growth innovation, right? So especially for the founders and finding a really good co-founders who can actually align with your vision, or can have the ability to really, make idea into action. And that is one of the key. And sometimes I saw some founders who really wanted to be alone because and he doesn't want to share his idea with someone else. He really want to keep this idea as his child. He wanted to go by alone. But I mean, we are not Steve Jobs, right? So I mean, if you are like a really Steve Jobs level genius, maybe it's possible. But even Steve Jobs really needed team cook. So Steve Jobs needed someone who's really good at operations, someone is good at HR, someone is good at sales, right? So nobody actually can be good at everything, right? So making an A team, even if the B idea, is more important. Okay, last 10. You never know what is gonna happen to you. So find and run with your replacement. Okay, so if you look at this picture, it's quite interesting. 70% of person feel lonely through the journey. Yeah, and 62% of founders, they feel they are sacrificing their present lives for future success. But it gives a huge mental, problem. And a lot of startups are actually facing the mental problem. But that sometimes mental problems leads to really physical health issues. And then they don't want to actually reveal their problem because especially if you have some investor who actually invested in your company and you don't want to reveal that I'm a really mentally sick person. So a lot of entrepreneurs actually they hide the mental problem. So this is why it's very important for you to have your friend who can go the journey with you as a co-founder. Even he can replace you. So you never know. Basically, who knows? And tomorrow, because of sudden, accident, you just are no longer living in this world. I mean, what can you do? So, I mean, there's always so different possibility of our life, and then what's gonna happen, we don't know. So, I think, of course, keeping your mental, physical health is so important. But in any cases, it's very important to find your replacement in any case and run together with them, then it can be a really good partner, right? So replacement doesn't mean that, really aggressively replacing your position. Rather, in any case, you need someone else who actually can keep your business, even if you got a huge problem that really private you from doing your business, right? So this is the key, right? So I just shared some of the points that we have to keep in mind to keep growth innovation based on my experience and also interviews with the founders that I met not just from Korea, but also some other places. And these are several tips. But of course, here, some of you guys wanted to share some other tips. Maybe you guys also wanted to wonder more detailed information or detailed the stories, behind each point, whatever. So, I mean, I'm very open to any questions, any debate, any discussion from now on. Right. So this QR code directly connect you to my LinkedIn profile. So if you wanted to be connected with you, and yeah, just feel free to ask for connection. And this is my email address, and also I can be connected to WhatsApp. This is my phone number. So I'm very, very happy to share my my personal information here. So just let's keep in touch, and even after the session, and then among you guys, we definitely will have 20 best teams, and then they're gonna visit anyway in Seoul so that we can meet in person. And also there are lots and lots of interesting, opportunities. I'm now very actively preparing for you guys, so I'm very, very happy to do that. But even if you are not selected as the finalist so that you cannot, make it to come to Seoul, but I'm still very open, because to any support and assistance from my side if I can to everybody here. So thank you very much. And so now it's time to for us to have a group chat. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great. Thank you so much, Josh. So we've already got some questions in the chat. We'll go through those first, and then we'll head over to people putting their hands up. So Tabang, I see your hands up already, but just let us go through these. And Gugu, I see you as well, but we'll just go through these other questions on the chat first, and then I'll follow sort of in line with people. So we'll go from there. All right, so just please keep your videos off until you're called to ask your question. So we're going to just start with the first question that was asked in the chat, which is Mike Strono. His question is, MyMovies.Africa is interested in OEM with Samsung and LG. Can we get an introduction to HQ in South Korea, please? He's asking for a big ask there.
Right. I mean, even for Koreans, like having a direct connection with the HQ from Samsung and LG is definitely challenging. Of course, it pretty much definitely depends on, how attractive your solution is. Of course, even for Korean startups, instead of the direct connection with the HQ, and then we have some kind of step-by-step approach, right? So basically, they have their own CVC arm, like a corporate venture capital. So they are the people actually direct interaction with the startup. So I think they're with the best initial way for you to connect. So the old LGs and Samsungs and CVC people are coming to come up. And then, of course, in the come up, it's a really open space where everybody can meet everybody, right? So, of course, I can facilitate some kind of the bit matching meetings between the investors and also investees. So, if you come up with a really concrete pitch deck, anyway, you guys have an opportunity to pitch in Seoul if you are selected. And then, well, after that, during the event, of course, as I mentioned, there'll be a lot of opportunity for you to meet with those, actual venture capital part, the people. And once they are convinced, then they're gonna report to the mother company and etc. They are a huge company. It takes a long time. It's very different from conventional VC mechanism. Basically, VC mechanism they sometimes take just 3 months, within 4 months, for them to make a decision to invest in money. But in the big corporates, it's not just only about financial investment. They have to think about all other elements and aspect and impact and everything. So and also the Samsung LG internally in-house, they have a really great technical teams, right? So you will really have to convince them we are better than their technical team. This is not easy, right? So it takes sometimes 6 months and 1 hour. So first you have to be patient, but I think, as I mentioned, I can facilitate some kind of really initial meeting with the VC arms from those companies.
Oh yeah, thanks, Josh. So that that is a key prize, and just to push back on everybody, the next steps of Africa Tech Startup Forum is the opportunity to pitch, but you can only get into this pitching if you are all up to date with all your assignments and your gap analysis and everything that goes with it. So you've got a short amount of time, another few days to get that in. And if it's not in, then unfortunately you won't be able to pitch. Once you've pitched on that, you will be able to get selected for, or possibly get selected to go to Come Up Korea with the program, and that's exactly why we're taking you there. We're actually doing trips over to Samsung and LG, and they are at the Come Up Korea event. So that is the opportunity that's on the table here. There's another question, Josh, from Femi saying, what is the source of failure rate data that you're given? Is it CB Insights or PitchBook? Where did you get that information from?
It's CB Insight. It's CB Insight. I just by mistake I just missed that, the source part in the bottom of the slide, but it is extracted from CB Insight. Yeah.
Okay. Simangele asked, how do you test the product marketing fit quickly? And how do you do the same for the business model as well?
There's no really shortcut to make the product market fit there, especially if you're scaling up your business, not just in your region, but also like some kind of international market. So you really have to meet your customers. So basically, but if you come up with an idea, if you really want to do the product market fit, yeah, ask your friends. That's the really initial way. But I mean, a lot of actual startup founders some kind of feel shy to ask to your really close friends, and also meet your close colleagues and friends who can give a very frank opinion to you, and then they give a lot of insights. So firstly, I have a lot of interviews with their potential clients, whether your family members or colleagues, your friends, and even neighbor. Even you can just do some kind of survey on the street or whatever, and there are lots of ways. Then you can realize, and then you actually do the test with your MVP with the people, and then they give a lot of chance. So there is a interesting startup in Korea whose name is Wisely. They actually developed a very cheap shavers. That actually the shaver, the price of shaver, like actually 60-70% of those prices are actually from marketing. So they put a lot of money on marketing. Actually, all these costs actually put in the price. So he just realized that all the shaver is too expensive. He just come up with an idea doing some kind of OEM, and then but firstly he actually do some kind of test with 1,000 customer with a very low price, and then they got a really great, insight. It's just 1,000 people, but actually he was targeting to like millions people. So compared to that 1,000 people, might be small, but it's not small because it's pretty much enough for him to convince himself that his products works out, right? So I mean, having a lot of interview and survey, and they come up with your MVP and test it, and they gather really frank feedback, and that's the best way to get your product market. And then if it fails, and go to the next idea, and then next one quickly.
Great. Yeah, I mean, that great advice. You really have to keep pitching and presenting yourself to people, and that's how you're going to learn what works for people. Josh, another one from Tom Chris. He's just wondering, what do you think South Korean entrepreneurs can teach African founders? You've shared a few lessons already, but what more have you seen in your time here in South Africa? What do you think can be passed on?
Right. As I mentioned, actually, well, even myself, I'm also still learning some African business context, your business culture, your business regulatory framework, policy, and everything. So basically, if I don't think any Korean startup founders have the ability to talk about success skill in African market, which is something that we are not expertise as a entrepreneur in that region. However, I mean, Korean founders have the extensive experience and knowledge of raising funds from VCs, and they have a lot of experiences of being frustrated with the rejection by the investors, and also they have a lot of experience of approaching the big corporates, and that there are a lot of experience of hiring people, and also the challenge with the failure of working with the really bad people, and also a lot of these kind of challenges. So which is really universally happening around the world. So I think, in that level of expertise and knowledge is really truly valuable asset that we can provide it to African startup. Because, well, when I visited last time in South Africa, I saw the really, great potential of growth in the startup scene over in the African region, and then is pretty much similar to the time that South Korea experienced in the 10 or 15 years ago when the actual startup started booming. So we have some kind of knowledge and memories that we had mistakes and some kind of the lessons that we learned from some of the mistakes that time. So we can deliver that kind of knowledge and lessons, and that I think is the valuable set that we can provide to you guys.
Awesome, great. Sorry, just another one from us here from Femi. Tabang, I don't know why your picture, if you could just change your headshot, because it seems to be picking up as a video. Very strange with the zoomed in. Yeah, thank you. That's great, man. Another one from Femi. I just see I've lost my place now, trying to sort that out. Josh, a question. Can you have any insight of why you think the South Korean tech ecosystem developed so quickly? And what do you think were the catalytic factors that made the difference?
That's very interesting. That's an important question. Okay. I have like really both sides of feelings about the government here, right? So, okay. So I very much appreciate our government support for boosting Korean system ecosystem. But on the other hand, the regulatory framework, I mean, we still have a very strict regulatory policy framework that the prohibit like some kind certain type of fintech like digital health because of a really legacy organization like the taxi driver union, like the association of doctors and association of lawyers, they don't want to be disrupted, right? So that's one part. But despite this kind of fact, I mean, the Korean government played a huge role in boosting this startup ecosystem so quickly. So we didn't have we have nearly nothing in 15 years ago, right? So but I mean the government initiated like fund of funds, national fund. It's actually a huge amount of money. They collected money from all the different ministries, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Medicine, Ministry of Transportation, and then each ministry actually put a certain condition on the fund, and then they call for any VCs to invest in startups in transportation. So that money is from the Ministry of Transportation. So and the money for the fintech is from the Ministry of Finance. The fund for like let's say the edutech is from the Ministry of Education. So basically, the Korean government collected money from the different ministries, the form of fund of funds, and then they encourage VCs to invest in Korean startups in that area, and then put a lot of money. So basically, the government support was a really initial, trial, and since then, a lot of private sector actually, get it together and leverage this opportunity and make the best use of money to invest in startups, and startup grows and the business grows, the government grow all together. And now the government has stepped behind. So now actually, thanks to their initial support for the first 5-6 years, during these first 5-6 years, the private sector has grown up. So basically the government, give the gateway and give the actual seed money, and then they just let the private sector grow. And now actually we have a very healthy, ecosystem where government and private sector play their each role. So I think this is one of the key reasons why we are able to make the really quick, growth in the entrepreneurship thing. But also, that we really try to embed a culture of entrepreneurship to really young people. And then also, luckily, we are able to have stars from startup. So that is the key. So one success case makes a huge impact, right? So basically, also this is one of the focus of the government. So the government really wanted to find the star from the startup scene. So we are able to have one star, like from, as I mentioned, Delivery Hero, like Toast, and these stars played also a very significant role. So we also create some kind of virtual circle of this entrepreneurs community. So this only aged the first generation, early generation entrepreneurs, they also make a lot of paid forward culture to support young entrepreneurs, and that virtual circle is still going on. So this is how actually my community is grown up. So basically, we started as of 50 founders, as a small community of entrepreneurs, and now we 20,300 startups are members. So during these 6 or 7, 8 years, the entrepreneurs were very active in supporting next generation entrepreneurs. I think it's a very important key element to build the ecosystem from the bottom to bottom approach. So there's a government's role, as I mentioned, as a way to financial support, but there's another way where the private sector really try to build the virtual circle by, vitalizing, entrepreneur community.
All right, great. Then, Gugu, we've actually got a question from you. I don't know if you want to turn your camera on and you can ask it yourself, and nice to see your face.
Yeah, I saw a lot of hands raised here. Yeah.
Good. Gugu Robotics, we'll start with you. Can you try put on your...
My camera can be on now. It's locked.
Can you put your camera on as well, please?
Okay. Still can't. The host has disabled it.
Oh, that's weird. Try to do that again. Should be able to go on.
Still disabled. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm Emmanuel Obed. I'm the CEO of Google Robotics and AI startup here in Nigeria. So we build solutions for our customers from various industries, from agriculture to medicals and also for military. So it's high purpose robotics solution. So I wanted to ask a question because I have a team of just few people and we have been making impact. So literally is because when you're talking about the advice from successful startup founders, you say a lot of team can cause noise, and yeah, that will not be so good for a project. So literally, we're a small team and we have been making progress. Yeah, so it's more like because here in if for example if you're a startup, you don't want to waste too much money. Most of the things you have to do them yourself, and let's say you have not got funding to be paying workers. So literally, that's literally what we're doing, and it's been helping. But and it's gonna be hard, and so I don't even what I like. Can I get tips, Mr. Coy? Thank you.
Okay, so well, if I understand correctly, your question basically, well, I mean, how can you actually, keep your business in this financial, challenges? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That's all challenges for the founders. So basically, if you're founders, okay, so first you have to really find a way to raise the fund. That's the key function. So firstly, okay, you have to develop your product, but at the same time, you also have to keep this business moving. So you have to pay salary to your employees. You have to keep your office running on, right? So I mean, I think it would be to divide responsibility. So basically, you have to have a really good team of making, product. But as a founder, your priority should be to raise a fund from any different sources, whether it's a loan, bank loan, whether it's a, initial investment to startup. So, but I mean, at some point it's very challenging when the startup founders has to work on actually product development, of course, at the very early stage, that's a really key challenging. But I mean, if you have a really good team, I think you have to a little bit switch your focus from the product development to fundraising as much as possible. So that's one way, I think. And then also maybe you can find some kind of a business partner. So as I said, like connection to the really big company who can actually be interested in your solution or something, right? So and yeah, so I mean especially the financial challenge that you're facing is something that you also have to solve in a financial way, and then actually founder should be responsible 100% for raising funds. So I mean you have to really raise their pitching, so you have to spend most of your time to pitching to all the potential investors. This is really hard, but I mean, it's something that you have to do, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the question. Growth sucks cash, so you have to make a decision if you are going to take on someone or not, and that sort of comes with the need and when your product is growing. It is always the challenge of all entrepreneurs.
Right. I don't want to generalize the whole your situation, but I mean, well, of course, if you can give more detailed situation, whatever the after on that's really one-on-one chat, and then I can think about more things. But I mean, generally speaking, right. So I mean, yeah. So the founders have to do that, raise funds again and again. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
Josh, there is also a question on language barrier in South Korea. I mean, it's come up about 2 or 3 times on that. And I know we've covered this, that even when we were chatting about bringing people over there, how difficult is it to present an English-based product in South Korea, and what are the challenges there?
Well, basically, if you prepare like an English pitch deck or also doing some kind of English pitch, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Most of them understand. But the thing is that, well, even if the lot of Korean people have the good understanding of English as a way to get the information. So when you guys actually pitch in English and then your pitch deck is in English, that's fine. People can understand. But the thing is that when they have to make a debate, and then it's quite hard for them to move on the discussion, by using English. So, I mean, as an initial way to actually pitch your ideas and solution, they're fine. And then if they are interested, then they're going to bring someone who can actually communicate each other, right? So if your idea is really attractive, and then they would do that, or it would be good to have one translator from your side, but he should be also have the good understanding of your product, right? So there's 2 ways, right? Yeah, but I mean, again, yeah, at the initial stage, I mean, basically the pitching your idea is fine.
Great, awesome. We've got to go on to the hands up again. Tabang from Glitch Portal. You can start from your side. You can start your video and unmute. You're still there.
Yes. Sorry, it's just okay, I think I'm visual. Hello.
I can see you.
Okay. My question's very, very straight to the point and simple. It's more on when will the pitching day be? Like, I did hear Rex speak on it. I just want to know if there's like a specific date, or that'll still be announced soon enough. Okay, so yeah, that's my first question. It's just 3 questions, small answers. Should I go through all of them, or do you want to answer that one first?
I'll answer that one quickly.
Yeah.
So that's those demo days are going to be shared with you shortly. Who's sharing their screen? Let's put that off. Yeah, they will, if I get it correct, Penny, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think they're starting on the 7th of October. Am I right? Penny?
Hi, Rex.
Penny or Precious
Precious.
is throwing thumbs
Yes.
up.
They start from the 7th of October
Yes,
to the 11th of October.
Okay, cool.
My mind seems to be right. Carry on.
Okay. And yeah, well, on the whole pitching one, like, is there a specific pitch? Because there are like the general ones and investor ones. Is there one that it's looking more to? Are we pitching more on the product itself or pitching the company in general?
So yeah, I can, Josh, I mean, you can grab onto that as well, but it's you're always pitching both. You've got to
Okay.
pitch
So
your product, obviously, and then you've got to be able to say who the people behind it and convince people that you're a confident and solid company. Josh, you want to add in there?
Well, I mean, yeah, so yeah, I totally agree with that. So, yeah.
okay. Okay, and then the last one, the gaming development ecosystem in Korea, how is it over there? Because I am in the gaming world. I forgot. I do apologize. My manners. It's Glitch Portal. We do cultural African fantasy storytelling via gaming. We do have two products which focus a lot on the culture itself, because that is our skeleton for how we do things. So, how is the ecosystem for game development within Korea? Is it big? Is it small? Is it still growing? Early? Yeah.
The game industry in Korea is enormous, truly enormous. Every year we've got a big expo called G-Star taking place in Busan, not in Seoul. It's the second largest city in South Korea. This truly, truly international game show where all games takers around the world come, and it's huge success every year. It's amazing. But I mean, pretty much more really entertainment focus of the game, and then also, so we have a very strong, business structure like game publishers and the game developer, game investors. It's a very much well organized business structure there. And then we've got a lot of really big game company who is a similar size with big internet, big tech companies in Korea. So overall, the ecosystem is super big, but I mean, not sure whether this game ecosystem is interested in really collaborating with the game industry player outside of Korea. That's some kind of question I also have in mind, because domestically already is huge, and then actually the game is the one of the strongest Korean export item. So we are kind of proud of developing game which is available around the world. So once you launch your game is popular in China, in Japan, neighboring Asian country. So basically all the game companies, one good thing is that the game companies in Korea, they're pretty much global international. So they are pretty much good at like the English communication. That's a good thing. But I mean, yeah, as I mentioned, domestically, the size is a little big. So I have to check whether they are also interested in collaborating with some kind of emerging economy game into the player. So that's some kind of questionable. But overall ecosystem is
How
something that you
come
can.
she said your books are not part?
Sorry?
Okay, cool. Wait, that wasn't me. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Josh. Yes, very excited. Yeah, currently preparing my pitch, and yeah, I will see you guys soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tabang. I'm going to take another hand up. David Moduli. Please put your camera on and unmute and ask us your question.
Okay, can you all see and hear me?
All good. Carry on.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the presentation. My name is David from OmniGym, and we enable access to multiple fitness facilities across East Africa with over 40 partner gyms that we are currently having in Kenya and Uganda. Now, our main goal for the Come Up Festival is to try and link up or partner with different gym startups like the Gym Inc., the Fit, Sleek Corporation, and the like, and also understand a lot about the chains that you have, because as far as we know, we've seen Any with about 80 gyms, Body Channel with about 38, and Goto with about 50, and those are all within the South Korean area. We're looking forward to more or less trying to bridge networks with those particular partners who might be interested in the African continent. But my questions are two. What is the criteria you're going to possibly use around the selection for this particular Come Up Festival? And I understand there's going to be pitching, but what exactly are we looking for as a criteria in terms of selection? And the second question is, you mentioned something during the presentation about all these founders who have been trusted in ways that are unorthodox to some people, whereby someone maybe fails and the venture capitalists are like, go ahead and get something else that you're going to do and we'll wait for it. How does a founder, most especially in Africa, to the best of your knowledge, reach this level of trust with venture capitalists and business partners to be able to put forward that level of expectation to them and ensure that they are comfortable with him or her doing something, even if it may not be the particular sale that they had initially? How do we build that level of trust in our partners and the venture capitalists? Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a great, also very important question. So in terms of criteria, maybe the Ubu also Catalyst team also can add. Well, as far as I know, there will be some kind of general criteria as a startups and so how good is your market, product market fit, whether you're, scalable strategy, so you're actually the business strategy is feasible, and you've got also good team to make this idea into action. So these are overall criteria that you can actually meet any other really demo day, right? So there must be some kind of really general criteria that you actually apply to screening the startups and the capabilities and also their business. That's one part. The other one is, of course, we'd like to leverage this opportunity as much as possible, especially in the South Korean context, right? So, I mean, in South Korea, of course, we have very different portfolio in terms of investment in the industry. So we don't have any specific really major industry which is really dominant in the VCO, even though digital healthcare is always the number one in terms of the size of investment. I think the digital healthcare, compose around 20-30% of the total venture investment in Korea. And there are several industries that we are interested in. Okay, as I mentioned, digital healthcare and climate tech, and also, of course, fintech and edutech, etc. But I mean, if we can find some startups who has a good fit with the interest of Korean startup ecosystem, that probably will be an additional criteria. So this year, we have focused on climate and also some of the deep tech. I mean, deep tech is actually because it's a really global trend, right? Like AI stuff. So whether you use AI in your gym service, whether you use AI in education, whatever, basically, as long as you use the AI in a very good way, and there will be more opportunity, I think, right? So the AI, some deep tech, and climate tech, and healthcare, and also what else these days? Not very much on platform, to be honest, but I mean several other places, also edutech and some kind of fintech and etc. So how well your business domain fit to Korean corporates in the VC's interest, and there will be an additional criteria, I think. So that's the key elements that I'm going to bring into this screening process. Make sense?
Yes.
Then, and your second question is about how to really enhance your capability as a founder to come with VCs to keep trust in the founders. As an example, I think it's better to give some kind of example, right? So basically, the reason why the Altus Ventures is to keep investing in the Seunggan, who is the founder of TOS, was that he was truly obsessed with the perfectionism on their solution. his problem solving skills, right? So once you actually identify a solution, he tried to the end of the solution that we come up with. You know what I mean? So he actually presented his capacity and the willingness to solve the problem in a really perfect way. And even if it has failed, then the venture capital really respected his spirit as entrepreneur, because basically problem solving is the key element for the entrepreneur skill, right? So he's got a really great problem solving skills. So these days, as a founder of the unicorn, which has like more than 1,000 employees, I mean, his team has really aligned with his spirit. So actually, this team, they have so different small teams in the TOS group, and then each team is actually working as a small startup within the organization. They come with a solution to solve the problem by themselves, and then keep moving. And if they fail again, then go on. So I think, if you can present your problem solving skills, and then never give up, and then a very good collaborator, I think these are the key elements that you can convince your investor to keep investing in you. And maybe regarding the criteria, I don't know, the Rex or someone else can add more idea. I don't know. Yeah.
We got to move on. I'm going to hand over to Edgar. Edgar, if you can put your camera on. If you guys have other questions that the team can answer about Africa Tech Startup Forum, please drop us an email, because we're going to try to focus on questions for Josh on this program. Edgar, if you can put your camera on, unmute, and ask us your question.
Okay. Good morning. This is Edgar. I'm from Jamii Trade. Hope I can be heard clearly. Our platform is basically to empower African trade network, where we focus on SMEs. We focus on SMEs to build up their capacities through community networking, market analysis, and capacity building. So my first question goes to, I wanted to ask, how is the South Korea trade network? How is the trade network? Because Jamii Trade, we are focusing on empowering various SMEs. So I wanted to know, how is the South Korea trade network? Then my second question is, on the first discussion that we are talking this morning is about the business model. So as entrepreneurs, when you are starting your business, will you focus on that business model that you have started with, or do you need to improve on it as market need grows, or will you have to stick on that same model when you are a startup? Then is the same business model in Africa? Can it also work in other countries, or it just operates in different structures and different areas? Thank you so much.
The trade, in a conventional, as a conventional term, is trade. It's not a really easy field that startups jump in. Well, as you can already experience, I think. So trade network here in South Korea, well, I have a very poor knowledge on this, so I'm not sure if I can really like the concrete answer to your questions. But is that trade network, from the startup perspective, well, in South Korea, I'm not sure whether they work in a good way, especially for startups to jump in. So, but I mean, yeah, let me check with the some of my investors who are focusing on this area, and then I can give you the more detailed answers. But for now, from my knowledge, well, very few opportunities there, unfortunately. But I mean, there are some startups, because I mean, as I mentioned, this is a really difficult field, so that's why there are a few startups actually jumping into that trade thing. And but I mean, especially trade network, I mean, basically well organized, I think, even for small startups. I mean, network is pretty much good, but I mean, I had to check more details in order to give the right answer. And what's the second question? Because I was lost in the middle.
Okay. The second question was about we discussed about different business models that you have to have the same business model from the beginning. My question is, do you have to change it? Because sometimes when you are starting out, maybe the startup is a bit small. Then when you're expanding, do you have now to change the model, or you have to just to stick to your very fast model? Then the second question in the models and structure, does the same structural business model in Africa, will it work in other nations like Korea, or it would be different in the same business field?
With my very poor knowledge about your specific business models, I'm a little bit cautious about in answering to this question, to be honest. I mean, but it pretty much depends because it is really related to other, factors, elements, whether you have to make a decision on, you have to keep your business model with a little bit of customization, with a little bit of incremental innovation, or you totally want it to be a little bit disruptive innovation, which is by transforming your business model into a completely new one. So it pretty much depends, and then. But again, as I mentioned in my presentation, and then you are the person know exactly the time, all right? So whether you have to change the model or just keep the thing, right? So, but I mean, well, if I can have a more discussion with you and your situation, perhaps I can give some kind of more my, personal opinion thing. But I mean, yeah, for now, it really depends on, in the market situation and also your team situation, and your business model wise, and there's some other competition stage and etc. So I don't know actually whether I answered the question properly, but given the limited knowledge about the business, that's something that I can give you as an answer.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to move on to Sigun. Sigun, do you want to put your camera and put your mic and ask your question, please?
Yes,
Yeah, you
very
can.
much. Great session so far. So my name is Shegun. I'm the market. So is the agri supply chain operating system. So I'm actually very much aware that most of the population in Korea actually lives around the Seoul area, and Korea is also very big in international trade, which means export and import. And so I actually have this question because of our focus on the food and agricultural commodities. Your understanding about the food processing space in Korea, as well as the food service space, the opportunities that actually is available, the production for the trade of harvested agricultural products, because I know a whole lot of soya bean, a whole lot of those products, as well as some other products like cocoa and everything is heavily needed, because I know Korea is also big in the production of rice and some other we'll look at that opportunity of engaging direct processing, and it won't be probably one way alone from Africa. Are there also opportunities for technical assistance, as well as available machineries as technical assistance that can actually allow from level of intermediate processing? Because my background is in chemical engineering also. So I've actually worked in production, and I know that in production, you probably need your materials to have even come in a certain form, which makes the production much more efficient. So instead of it just coming as raw alone, it can also come in intermediate form, which allows Korea also to exchange some of the knowledge that they have in the technical machine and everything. So it's a two-way thing. Agricultural produce and product available for the food processing. There's thousands of food processing companies in Korea, and so the food processing sector, the food service sector, and the instant food sector, everything in Korea, building engagement and partnership with us in Nigeria as well as Africa, because Africa actually has about 70% of the world's arable land and everything. So that's just that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, in terms of food, the only thing that the Korea people is aware about the African thing is actually coffee. So they really like the Africa born coffee. Yeah, so everywhere. So a lot of people really prefer to choose, African, original coffee from, those regions. So it means that, the Korean people are very adventurous on the different type of foods and different type of actually dining, different type of actually food culture. So it's just a big so and also the Korean customers are how can I say very sensitive in their trends and fashion. So every year the new F&B service comes and out, the suddenly goes up and this goes down. It's very much competitive. So, but I believe that there is a huge possibility for African food and culture and a thing in Korea, which is not very well unknown to people. But as again, Korean people are very adventurous to different, food things and culture things, especially these days. A lot of people are really interested in Dubai chocolate. I don't know why. What's the actual link between Dubai and chocolate? But anyway, they developed something, and the Dubai chocolate is one big phenomenon these days. So if there's some kind of African thing and something kind of fusion with some kind of Korean interest, there'll be huge, I think, because we have never seen that kind of thing, right? So there is a big, big, big opportunity, I believe. But of course, there are some kind of issues like hygiene, like quarantine, those things, So this is something that you also have to take care about, and also you have to also find a way whether you can actually produce in-house here in Korea rather than producing Africa too. But so that's something also you have to think about. Of course, I mean I don't know exactly what kind of ingredient can be produced and then exported without any being decayed, or maybe there's some kind of ingredient that should be planted in house and I don't know, right? So, but I mean, you have to do a lot of research on that and speaking with those experts. But again, over the market, the culture, like the food thing from Africa, is something that people are really potentially expecting.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks again. Yeah, I mean, there's so much opportunity and focus on Africa at the moment. So with food products into international markets, we're starting to really get recognized for that. And USAID, Africa Trade Initiative is the big one that you should look at, Sigun, as well. There's a huge amount of progress going on between the US and Africa at the moment to try and get more products into different markets.
I'm very much aware of the Prosper Africa project also. I'm looking also in the United States.
Awesome. Yeah, chat to us about that as well. We're quite involved in programs that go over there. So chat to my team on that. We're going to take two last questions. We're going to go with Abby Batch first. Abby Batch, if you could put your camera on, and then we'll follow on with Ed. But while they're just getting their cameras on, there's some questions also just that I can answer about who's going to be added onto the pitching competition and stuff like that. So if you have finished and you're up to date with all your documents and submissions, you will be getting an email confirming that you will be able to join those sessions, and then we'll start planning when and where they are happening. But yeah, if you're not, you will also be getting an email saying, unfortunately, you didn't qualify because you didn't complete all of those things. So please keep note of that. Abibet, if you can put your mic on, and we'll hand over to you for your question.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Josh. I am Habiba Adirogba, and the founder of Resources Academy. So we are leveraging technology, especially AI, to impact and train women and teenagers across Africa. And so I have a few questions to ask. So firstly, I'm much interested in because you mentioned something like in your slide you talked about pivoting and how to move and perhaps how to shift from one area of specialization or to another. So I would like to ask concerning that, because recently we started with training for women, and over the time we realized that there is need for teenagers as well to acquire a tech skill. How did we factor this? It's due to the fact that they have been reaching out to us. And we also see that there is a problem. And what is the problem is that a lot of teenagers are, they have this the bad orientation of using technology tools. So, and this is very rampant in Africa, especially. So, and we realize that we can help them to nurture this change this orientation and nurture them by what introducing technology tools and giving them the digital literacy that is needed for them to, pivot away from the bad orientation to them by utilizing this technology tools to impact lives and do great things. So now I would like to ask concerning that. We moving, I don't know, we are not really moving actually, but I think it's just like an hurdle to us. So can you consider that as pivoting as in the right direction, or what is the risk and how effective it could be? Since we already factored out a lot of things. So, yeah. So, and my second question is that taking Korea as a case study. So, how can you, how can you rank the edutech in Korea? So, this considering level 1 to 10. So, what is your rank there? And again, what is the percentage probability of women embracing AI skill in Korea? Let's say long term, thinking long term in the next 3 years. So these are my questions. Thank you.
Josh, the clarity of sound wasn't great on that, but I'm guessing, Abibat, you were asking about what is EdTech, how well is it being used in Korea, and the need for it in the region, and the take-up of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, also, yeah, some kind of connection problems that make a little bit difficult for me to understand. But basically, yeah, the edutech edutech is South Korea is pretty much focusing on the best use of technology, especially AI, to deliver all different kind of educational contents to the people, especially by using LLM model of AI to provide the knowledge information about educational content, which is delivered in different languages, but also available in Korean as a translated way to the future generation. So basically, the edutech these days are pretty much focusing on the use of technology to maximize the learning experiences for the kid. That's the one really big trend there. And secondly, the edutech is basically this public education in South Korea. Okay, it's a kind of long story, but anyway, basically edutech is pretty much driven by the private sector, which try to fill some kind of missing point where the public education cannot fill. So, for example, like entrepreneurship skills, like problem-solving skills, some kind of future-oriented knowledge, which is actually not very much covered in the traditional classroom. So a lot of edtech startups in Korea pretty much focus on that way. Like in summary, they're using the technology to make all different kind of education content available from around the world to the kids. A second part is to fill the gap where the public education cannot fill, especially in the area for the future generation to be prepared in the age of AI. So these are the two trends, and these two how the tech is focusing on.
Thanks, Josh, for that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abibat. We'll just saying we will take one extra question after Ed. So Ed, if you can put your camera on and unmute and ask a question of Josh, and we'll do one final question, which will be Emeka, because he put up his hand just as I was closing out. Carry on, Ed. See, Ed, you having troubles with your mic, and are you there? We can't hear you, Ed. So maybe just, yeah, I'm not sure if we'll be able to get you on this. If you could just ask a question on the chat, we'll take it at the end. Emeka, do you want to start with your question and go from your side?
Yeah, hi. Good to be here. I've been following Josh. Sort of sweet spots, right? So my question for Josh would be, are there sort of like matchmaking opportunities for commerce and retail startups, AI commerce and retail startups, in terms of like partnership with brands like, I know Korea has some of the biggest brands, commerce brands in the world, like Samsung, Huawei, sort of like all those opportunities. Say, at the end of the cohort, right? Like, let's say at the end of this cohort, right, we're going to have those access to some of those brands to test and validate our products, because we've done come a long way in terms of validating our assumptions with various local manufacturers, and in Nigeria, and also companies, So that's my ask for Josh.
All right. So as in the commerce, startups, you would like to know how to also how to actually make the Korean brands is available to your market. Is it something right? Yeah. So, all right. Okay, so generally, I mean, I've got a lot of questions which is from this African great founders about connection with the big names like the Samsung or LG, like the GS and big thing, and then but I mean those big companies already have some kind of presence in Africa, so basically it's faster to actually connect it to the African presence of those companies, but also, I mean, as I mentioned, these big names are very much hierarchical, just a huge companies, even for Koreans. But also there are a lot of other, of course, smaller than Samsung, but quite big sized names in South Korea who have more active, plans, expanding to African market. Probably you guys have never heard about those names, but those names are still pretty much big and popular in Korea. So I think it would be good to also approach those some kind of middle names, which is more relatively easier to approach compared to Samsung, which is always they are hiding actually. Sometimes, you have to go this department, sometimes this department, you never know. And so I think, if you really wanted to leverage this opportunity, there are some middle-sized names who are definitely seriously more interested in African market. I think that's a really good way for you to start, connecting with the Korean brands and the Korean merchandise to Africa, not just the Samsung or like LG.
So the opportunities for that, right? Maybe I give an example. Sorry, right?
Okay, sorry,
I don't know if you got it.
Sorry, Emeka, actually, I nearly hardly hear your voice because it's actually, disrupted. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I said, would there be opportunities for that? Like, are there going to be opportunities for all of those? Like, you talked about these micro brands, right, or smaller brands. Are going to be opportunities for us to like pilot with some of those brands in terms of market access, as opposed to going to like a Samsung or a Huawei, right? Are there opportunities for that? Like, I mean, we're open to sort of those opportunities, right? I mean,
yeah. So again, basically I covered it earlier then, and well, if you have a really good pitch, and of course I can facilitate, these kind of connections, and then you can find an opportunity with the kind of big names, but also again, those big names already have some kind of presence in Africa. So, I mean, yeah, it's more, I think it's a better way to approach those Africa-based, presence from those companies.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. we'll talk more later, sure. Yeah. Okay. And then Rex, so we covered all the questions, I don't know.
Yeah, so we do have one final one. It's just Ed has managed to get us
okay.
Ed, you can carry on.
Thanks. How's it, Josh? Lovely to be with you again. Awesome, man. I'm back in Cape Town, so I'm sorry I missed you. Well, thanks so much. Fascinating insights, Rex. Thanks so much to you and your team for putting this together. Just by way of introduction again, I'm the founder of Touch to Learn. Our platform is hailed as the most accessible content platform in the world, solving the accessibility problem for 600 million users in sub-Saharan Africa alone. And that's got a content value of 6 billion per annum. So those points talk to your initial slide. We've been going for 10 years, so hopefully we make it into that 10% that you referred to. Bootstrapped, self-funded, and you could say marginally profitable. The question that I posed on the group to you, Josh, was that given your extensive experience with startups and innovation, what strategies would you recommend for Touch to Learn to effectively pitch its world's most accessible content platform to leading South Korea companies like Kakao, Naver, Samsung Electronics, and LG CNS at your Come Up event in the hopeful event that we get selected?
Yeah, that's crucial question, but it's very hard to answer. Okay, so basically, I mean, it must be some kind of really basic principle, but I really want to emphasize that. So, I mean, yeah, Samsung or LG, like the Kakao, Naver, they are like huge organizations with like more than hundreds of different business, part there, right? So as a whole, Naver, like Samsung, it's really hard to identify whether they are interested in African market. But I mean, in one business part, should be interested in specific market because of their product or their services. For example, okay, Naver, they are going to launch their office in Saudi Arabia, so Naver Arabia, right? Overall, Naver, I don't know, but Naver Arabia is very interested in because they recently developed the LMM, AI model, which can have the opportunity in some Saudi Arabia, Arabic, countries. So these kind of big companies have a different business opportunity in different regions depending on their business and service model. So I think it will be important to understand what business part of these big companies are interested in your region. I think that is the key, gateway for us to approach. And once we have them, and then we can develop further, and then we go to the upper level, right? So I strongly recommend the selected startup to identify what business part from the big names should be fit to your business. Then also, of course, I can give more information, facilitate all the things. So that will be the best way to raise the possibility of being successful pitch to those companies, right? So study more about the big names and their different interested. And the Samsung has a specific interest in Africa in the southern business model. The Naver also as well, the Kakao as well, right? So, but regardless the region, but if your solution is some kind of more universally, available. So for example, if you develop some kind of, I don't know, let's say weather forecast application, which is very precise around the world by using GPS or whatever, right? And of course they would be interested. So, but basically try to understand their needs, and then that will really raise your possibility. So in order to do that, of course, I can facilitate the bid matching from the people from all this company who will have a better interested in your business model because of their work. You understand what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So that's something I will definitely have to do. But from your side, again, yeah, strongly recommend to identify which area that they'll be interested.
Well, that's very useful, Josh. I think, yes, you got to peel the onion. What we identified with those four companies, that they all have a strong presence in technology and the education sectors. So just in that space alone, make them ideal candidates for Touch to Learn's innovative platform. And I think the piece around accessibility is as applicable to those that are in developed markets as they are in developing markets. So we've had some work with Samsung in the past, and there's a great opportunity. I mean, Huawei actually paid us to port our platform across onto their architecture because of the US trade embargo. But I think that in each case, if I had to narrow it down, I think Kakao would probably, and Samsung would probably be the key potentials, because the Kakao's keen ventures into various digital services, including education and content delivery. And of course, Samsung has a differentiated capability to embed the application into a bespoke entry-level device. So it drives a multiplicity of revenue streams for them whilst creating competitive advantage. But I think your point around understanding what those, the next level down, or what those key areas of interest to them would be, and I would assume that revenue generation and diversification of revenue in new geographies would probably be top priority for each of those four.
Oh, sorry for the last part I just missed. So revenue generation for these big four names, right?
Yeah, revenue and diversified revenue streams that would create competitive advantage for them in high growth markets, such as what we're seeing in Africa. I mean, Southern SADC alone, as I mentioned to you earlier, is an enormous market. SADC is just with 660 million users, and a very conservative content valuation is 6 billion. So we're already working very, very closely with one of the world's leading content providers, but obviously working with and through you, and given Rex's insights and guidance on that front, would prove invaluable.
Okay.
Thanks. It's sorry, we do have to cut this short now. It is the end of the session, but yeah, that's key insight and probably one-on-one conversation that you'd have from here on, and furthering on to hopefully being selected for the program in Seoul end of the year. But yeah, just closing out, thank you very much, Josh, for your presentation today. Yeah, very insightful, and I really like the Q&A session. It was nearly an hour-long Q&A, so it was. Thanks for your time and your input. a lot of questions, a lot of thinking on your feet today.
But I learned a lot from you guys' side, and also, yeah, it's a really interesting, insightful session for me as well. So thank you very much for the great questions, and that I really love to keep in touch with all of you guys. And also, if you have any more detailed questions, just don't hesitate to contact me. You already got a lot of actually WhatsApp and the LinkedIn connection here.
Good. Awesome. Thank you.